Celebrating 50 years this year since they first formed, it's Ann Wilson from Heart.
Ann Wilson, welcome to My Planet Rocks.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to be able to talk to you in what is Women's History Month. I mean, it would be wonderful to talk to you anyway. I was wondering if when you began your sort of professional career as a singer and a musician and an artist, did you feel that you were a female singer, or did you just want to be a musician?
Yeah, that's a good distinction to make, because I never did go into it thinking, well, I'm a girl, and so I have to be girly about this. Like, I don't know, I listened to Led Zeppelin and I didn't think that Plant was trying to be a big dude.
And I think with hindsight, it's very easy for people to look back on the career of a female musician and say, oh, there weren't many of you, you were a trailblazer, which is actually true. But at the time, you were just getting on with your passion.
Yeah. And the intent was never to make a big feminist wave. Back in 1973 or 4, when I first joined Heart, that was not even a thing. The thing was you just wanted to sing and get into be in a band and go out there and play for people. And you weren't thinking of this other higher, more social, political type reason for doing it.
Well, you've picked some great tracks for us to play. And also I'm dying to talk to you about your new solo album, Fierce Bliss. But what I wanted to do first was to play a track that you've picked. Speaking of women who rock, you've chosen Jefferson Airplane's Somebody to Love.
Yeah.
If ever there was a woman who knew how to do that, it's Grace Slick.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Yeah, she was great, is great, and a great, strong personality, and a revolutionary in her time.
Have you met her?
Yes.
I mean, I have never been in her universe whatsoever, but I would assume that she also doesn't walk around thinking, I am a woman who is fighting for this. She's an artist who's fighting for this.
Right. For some people, the idea of all working together just comes natural. I mean, that's where they start. I think Grace is one of those. She never had to fight to be accepted. She just was, When
the truth is found to be.
That was Jefferson Airplane with Somebody to Love, as chosen by my guest today. It's Ann Wilson on My Planet Rocks. And you mentioned briefly a little bit earlier on that it was about 1973 when you joined Heart. And now, I'm just trying to add up how many years later that is, but we know it's a few. When you look back on the Ann Wilson that joined Heart, does she kind of fascinate you? Because obviously she didn't know what was coming. Do you think she was ready?
No, she was not ready. She was a child, basically, very naive, brought up in a really sheltered way. There was nothing about me then that was badass or hardcore or streetwise or any of that. I just kind of drifted into it like a princess in a way, never suspecting what lay ahead. And I think that the experience of being in the band all these 50 years has been my life's teachings, to myself.
So many people want to be in a band and want to be a singer and these days want to be famous or successful, but not, such a tiny fraction of people who would like to do it actually end up opening their eyes with the spotlight and the mic in front of them and
yeah,
it's showtime.
Yeah, I think that fame, and especially long career type of a fame where people consider you to be sort of iconic and they make up myths about you and all this kind of stuff, that can be just as uncomfortable as it is great. And so it takes a certain type of animal to be able to live with that.
Did you kind of learn to roll with the punches quite early, or did it take a while to toughen up to the world of rock and roll?
Oh, it took me a while. Yeah. Like I can remember at various points in the beginning feeling really shocked and disappointed that the what I thought was going to be such a glorious, beautiful, hip thing really has a large percentage of vulgarity involved and sleaziness, dishonesty. I mean, it goes hand in hand with the glory and the money and the excitement.
I'm going to take another great lead singer straight away here. You've chosen The Who and Love Reign Over Me, and I would guess as a singer, this is one of those songs that must be amazing to sing.
Yes, it is. And I've sung it many times for years. Always loved doing that song just because it's soul satisfying. It's almost like prayer or something.
And on the way, Liz Barnes asks Anne about her affiliation with Led Zeppelin and that iconic performance of Stairway to Heaven at the Kennedy Center.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about your new album. And how did you decide the time was right to make a solo album? Has it been brewing for a while, or was it lockdown? Or
I think because of the lockdown in the pandemic and the quarantine, where there was a year where I basically just stayed home, and the chaos and the hyper energy of the rock touring life kind of stilled for a bunch of months. And I was able to feel and think and daydream and look out the window. And so songs just started coming to me. So when I had enough of them, I just went, well, these have to go down,
And you got to work with Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
Yes. Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Warren Haynes and Tom Bukovac and incredible musicians.
And I guess, speaking as a non-musician, I guess when you work with new people like that, it brings a new energy to what you're doing.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and they have great ideas. And I don't really tell everybody exactly what I want them to play. I want them to bring their own ideas to the fire. Tony Lucido, the bass player, is the best bass player I've ever played with. And it's as much about what he does not play as what he does play. He's just so intelligent and so passionate.
We're going to pause there and take another of your track choices. I'm going to approach the Led Zeppelin topic right now, because for you, I'm guessing that Led Zeppelin, narrowing down a Led Zeppelin choice would be quite difficult to play, but you've gone for the Battle of Evermore.
Battle of Evermore is kind of druid, it's got this ancient Celtic feel to it and entirely modern for its time.
Well, that's it. And I think what makes it so incredibly special as well is the fact that Sandy Denny is like the only non-Led Zeppelin voice that's ever been allowed. So
ever.
It makes it kind of hallowed, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's such a boys' club. Zeppelin always was a boys' club. And I know that because there was a minute when the rumor was that they were auditioning singers, and I just threw my hat in the ring. I went, I'm here. And it was crickets,
I do have to mention, though, come on, they should have at least said, come on in and let's do a few numbers. I would have been hanging outside the building trying to smash windows to get in to see Ann Wilson and Led Zeppelin. Oh, my goodness me. And we know you can do it.
Who knows what went on there? But anyway, who would want to hire somebody that could sing just like Plant? I don't think that's what they were into. I don't think they wanted to be a caricature of Led Zeppelin.
The Queen of Light took her bow and then she turned.
It's the Battle of Evermore on Planet Rock, as chosen by my guest, Ann Wilson. And Ann, we were just talking about Led Zeppelin before then, and I was getting carried away and excited about you singing Led Zeppelin tracks. And I did mention your performance at the Kennedy Center Honours, because I know many people who have watched that and said, have you seen this? And every single time I watch it with somebody who's never watched it before, they always say, oh yeah, I'll watch a bit. Or I listen to a bit, and then they watch the whole thing, and they're like, good grief.
Right. The song itself is almost, at this point in the culture, it's almost holy, It's almost like the perfect song, the way it's written, the way it's structured. It's just one thing flows into the next. So it'd be hard to say, okay, I'll listen to the first acoustic part, but then I'm out,
but you definitely did. I mean, saying you did it justice is kind of an understatement, because you just made it. And, watching their faces, watching the band's faces, watching you, most people who are listening will probably know what I'm talking about, but it was really breathtaking. Did it take a while for you to come down after that performance?
Oh, yes. Yeah. That was a magical couple of days for me and for us. Not only up on stage in front of that audience that was packed with luminaries and the president and first lady and the surviving members of Led Zeppelin, but there was a trip to the White House involved and a special dinner where they seated us, among all these super famous people. It was just like a dream. We're on tour and everything's normal. And all of a sudden, here's this event in the middle that makes you feel like you've been invited to the palace of the king. And you get to have this audience and perform for the king, and then you're back out on tour again. So it was pretty marvelous.
That was the most unforgettable performance of Stairway to Heaven from the 2012 Kennedy Center Honors, featuring Anne and Nancy Wilson, and also Jason Bonham, who we can't forget on drums there. But a really awe-inspiring performance. And I love the fact that you're just as excited about it as me as a fan.
Right.
But Anne, let's wrap up with talking about your solo album. When was the last time that you were out with Heart? Was that last year or the year before?
It was 2019.
So that really is that's like pre-pandemic, isn't it?
Yeah, and we were scheduled to go out the next year too, but couldn't because of the pandemic. So,
but will Heart come back after this cycle of your solo album?
Oh, I think so, yeah. Because next year is like the 50-year reunion of when we actually got together and got going. Nancy didn't join until 75, but the band got going in 73. So, yeah, we have a bunch of stuff planned for next year. So I can definitely see Heart doing something.
Well, that will make a lot of people very happy. But in the meantime, a lot of people are still very happy because they've got your solo album. We've got Fierce Bliss that's out on the 29th of April over here. And I wanted to play out with the first single that we've got, which is Greed, because I think it's an incredible track. I mean, you mentioned there's seven new songs on the album and 3 covers. But tell us a little bit about Greed, Anne, because I love I've read what you said about it, but I just tell us a bit about the track.
I wrote about one of the 7 deadly sins that is so systemic in our culture. It's just, there seems to be this thing that it's not enough to just like what you have. You want more, always more. And we all do that, whether we know it or not. And I had a couple of experiences that took me off guard where I was just asking for something. And then I was told that's super greedy. And it was really offensive. It was hurtful to me. But then when I looked at myself, I thought, well, maybe that's right. I'm just overreaching here. Beyond the personal, I think that greed really applies. It's really relevant to what's going on everywhere in the world today. I mean, you look at this war that's going on. That's a really good example of just wanting to take, wanting to just pull everything to you.
You just sounds like you're so inspired by everything still. So we can't wait to hear the whole of the new album. But until we do, we've got the single. And we've just had an hour with you, which is wonderful. Anne Wilson, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been fun. Yeah.
So that's the final choice from Anne Wilson of Heart on My Planet Rocks.